And we're back. It's episode number 13 of the Brain Trust Poker Podcast. I'm excited. We've got the man from the north, the chess master himself, the chess wizard, Tom O'Donnell. And joining us, a man who some people thought might have just been AI or a simulation of some kind, the international man of mystery, Adam Teeple. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining, guys. All right. And today's guest, I'm excited. We got a ton to get to. We're going to be talking about bankroll and why we allow it to fall apart, the mistakes that we make, the way that we lose, the things that are costing us money at the poker table. And for that, we're bringing in a man, a fan favorite, somebody the audience has been clamoring for, a guy that we haven't seen in a while, but just made a reappearance on YouTube, Mr. Gerry Harris. Gerry, welcome, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited. We got a lot of stuff to get to. So I'm gonna kind of kick this thing off. We have a game to get to, by the way, that I'm also very excited about, but we'll save that for somewhere near the end. So, fellas, I want to start off right away with what are the most important bankroll tips. Now, Tom, I want to actually throw to you right away because I think you have a story that's really good regarding this. And you played, I guess I'll let you tell the story, but tell us about bankroll and like trying to make things when you're playing a game where you have like an inconsistent income.
Oh, okay. Well, for a number of years, I was a professional chess player and chess teacher. And I made my living for the first few years mostly playing. And then I sort of transitioned into more teaching than playing. One of the things that I did was I taught in schools. And what would normally happen is you get a contract for like, say, 8 or 10 weeks. And you could either get them to write you a check after every lesson. So you do like in a bunch of different schools, you do like a week's worth of lessons, you submit them and you get paid. But usually what I would do is I would just wait until the end of the school year. And then I would just get all my money at once. It made like accounting a lot easier. But, this often, was like maybe a quarter to a third of my year's income. And I remember one year I got my check and one of the other teachers happened to be there. And he saw that I just got a check for like a quarter of my entire yearly income. And he was like, oh, wow, you can now buy a car or do whatever. I don't like a used car. And I said to him, well, no, I can't, because like summer is coming up. And for like the next 3 months, like I'm going to have almost no income. So I have to pay 3 months worth of rent. I got to eat for 3 months, right? I got to do all the other things that you got to do with your money. I got to save some of it in case something happens, right? So if you have a job where I think for like people who are playing poker, like want to play poker, if you're receiving an income every 2 weeks, right, that budgeting is done for you. But if you have any kind of job, like say a sales job, or you work for yourself or something like that, you already have to have those skills. Otherwise, you're just going to go kablooey at some point, right? So I think for people that are thinking of, being a professional poker player, if you already have a job where your income is kind of like, goes up and down, you got a huge edge over the people that, they know every 2 weeks I'm going to get, $1,200. And it's not like 1 week I'm going to get $3,600. And then for like the next, 6 weeks, I'm going to get nothing. Yeah. And they blow all their money in like the first 2 weeks. Got nothing left.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So just to clarify, I meant to make this clear at the beginning, and I didn't. All three of these guys joining me, I have never cut my paycheck. I've never severed my paycheck to play poker professionally full time. All three of these guys have some experience with that world. So I think I want to hear from each of you. But Adam, I'm going to throw to you, and then Gerry, if you're up for it, I'll have you close. But Adam, you spent some time doing this professionally. What's like one thing that you would really focus on that people maybe don't do well, or that you didn't realize when you were jumping in there?
That man, playing poker is just like any other business. You're an entrepreneur, right? So you have to separate your business finances from your personal finances, and that's really hard to do. Put your bankroll into one bank account and only draw from it. Put your personal money in another bank account and draw from that for your bills, like Tom was saying, and make sure that you have enough to pay yourself and sustain, right? So, if you're going to pay yourself an hourly wage or a weekly wage of $500, say, a week. Pull that money out of your poker bankroll, whether you win or lose, so you have that money. Because you see folks like Corey, which has been on the show before, and everybody loves to watch. Glad he's out of debt now, but he's mixing his poker bankroll and his personal bankroll, and he's paying personal finances with that bankroll, and then he can't play, and that just creates so much stress and so many problems where you can't make calls that you should, you can't make bets that maybe you should, and then it really stresses the family life, the home life, when you lose, and that's also potentially your rent money.
That's really well said. When you're mixing it all in, and I've always heard it described as like a tool or a weapon, right? Your bankroll, that you need that tool. If you allow it to disintegrate, then all of a sudden you're left with this skill set that you could go do. It's like being a blacksmith, but you like sold your hammer to keep your business afloat, and all of a sudden, like, you've got a forge, but nothing to shape this metal with. Like, it's not going to do you any good. Gerry, I'm going to throw to you, man. You have been through all kinds of things. And actually, let me just say to the audience, anybody watching here, I have a ton of respect for Gerry because of something he chose to do. And he went all in, which I have respect for, but then was one of the people willing to say, hey, wait a second, is this best for my family right now? Let me take care of my family and step back out of it to take care of them, and then decide what the future holds. So, but Gerry, I want to throw to you, man. You've got experience in both of these worlds, and what stands out to you?
As far as bankroll management tip, is that the question?
Yeah. What's like the tip that you learned in that process?
The tip would be that whoever you are, if you want to take on this challenge of playing poker professionally, whatever you think you need, without, Adam said it 100%, you have to separate funds, but whatever you think you need for poker and you think like this is good enough, you need to multiply that by like 5 or 10. I mean, that's not, I'm not even joking. Like, because whatever you think the ultimate bad run or bad beat is, it can get worse. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can actually lose, 40 or 50 buy-ins, you know what I'm saying, over a 2 or 3 months, there's a lot of guys that, will, short stack essentially, and kind of like cash games. And like, I've never talked to anybody that's like, yeah, no, I mean, you could easily go on a 40 buy-in downswing. That's a massive, I have never gone on a 40 buy-in downswing, but that is a lot of buy-ins. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think whatever you think you need, because even once you get to the 25 buy-in or 20 buy-in or whatever, you start to operate differently at the table. You start to think differently. Your decisions are different. You're not playing the same way you are that last month when you were up 15, 20 buy-ins. So whatever you think you need to multiply it by 5 or 10. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Let me ask you guys, like, how hard is it to take money out of that bankroll when you are on that downswing? Again, this is like, it's hard for me when I'm on a downswing to be like, okay, let's go buy in again. It's time to play. But I can't imagine, like, I'm currently in the middle of losing. Now it's time to pull money to pay bills. Like, how gross does that feel? Adam, I love what you said with like, hey, I'm going to take the money no matter what. But still, what does that feel like to go to the bankroll when you're actively losing?
It's hard, but you have to remember that you're running it like a business, right? If you own a coffee shop and it's spring break and everybody leaves your college town for the week and no one's coming to buy coffee and donuts from you, at the end of the day, you still have to take money out and pay yourself. And if you stop doing that, then that's when it really affects the home life, the personal life of being able to go out to eat, pay the bills, that kind of stuff, and when it really drags down.
Gerry, any thoughts on that?
I mean, if it doesn't, I feel like you kind of borderline, you have to have two things in place. You have to check out kind of mentally in that space. Like, if you're trying to build a business, like he said, the coffee shop, you can't just be like, well, I can't pay myself, or I can't use this money. Like, you kind of have to separate yourself from what's happening and just be like, this is what I have to do regardless. But there also has to be a stop loss in place, because many businesses go bankrupt, or many businesses have to shut down because they're like, I can't even put food on my table anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there has to be those two things, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Tom, I want to throw up to you. Tom, I just,
Please.
yeah, sorry. No, Tom, I'm going to move over to you. How does that sound? And I want to talk about this. Daniel Negreanu talks about playing cards professionally, and he says I listened to an interview that he did, and he was saying one of the biggest mistakes players make is that they'll have a lifestyle of say $72,000 a year, right? But then they're making like $65,000 at the table, and they haven't done the like, okay, this is how I'm going to make this work. They just start going and slowly draining out the funds. And I know from talking with you that you're really cognizant of this is how I'm going to save money. This is how I'm going to keep my costs low. How do you approach that to where if you are on this like inconsistent payment schedule or you don't know exactly what your amount's going to be coming in, what are like some things that you're doing to plan for that or keep your lifestyle affordable?
Okay, well, I'm gonna sort of backtrack to something that Gerry said when he was saying you have to sort of budget that your expenses are going to be higher than you kind of expect. People who have jobs do not realize, I think, how much extra things you get with a job. Right? If you're a professional poker player, you want a vacation, it's going to cost you money, right? You're not going to get some employer that's giving you like money so that you can go on a vacation, basically, which is what vacation money, or like on holidays. If it's Thanksgiving or whatever, like you're not getting paid for that day if you don't work. Like if I don't kill it, I don't eat, right? So if you have enough kind of bad times, you're going to realize like people around you. I mean, I assume it's the same in the poker world as in the chess world. Granted, there's more people making money playing poker than are doing chess, but I mean, a lot of very good chess teachers or chess players, they hit a bad patch and then they're out. They got to go get a job. Right? You're gonna have the exact same thing, I would assume. Yeah. Somebody says health insurance. Yeah, exactly. Right. Health insurance.
Yeah, and to your point, that vacation now costs you not only the cost of the vacation, but also the week of pay that you have to not be at the table that you have to account for. Whereas for a person that's not cutting that paycheck, you're like, oh, it's paid time off. So all I have to pay for is the vacation.
And
so
some
now
of the juiciest games are going to be in the holidays too, right? Like if you miss New Year's Eve or something, like you get a bunch of drunk idiots that are potentially just handing you their money and you're taking a vacation day. Like,
oh, it is a great day to play poker. It is a great day to play poker. One of my favorites. Cool. Well said. Well said. Now I want to ask you guys this. How do you not just account for variance, but how do you recognize, hey, this is variance versus like, for example, most of us are tracking our hourly, but maybe you're in that middle of that downswing and you're like, hey, I know I'm worth this amount, but right now I'm getting crushed. How do you say that was variance versus this is not variance? I'm playing poorly.
Yeah, I think I'll say this right away. I think that if you are any kind of very serious poker player, whether you're recreational or you're full-time pro or whatever, at least with me, I can very instantly recognize whether or not I played bad or if it was just pure variance. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're like, hey, this is just variance. Like, if I made a bad decision, it's like very rare that I'm like, I'm like, that was terrible. That was a horrible play. That was my fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least that's how I feel. So I feel like very quickly I can recognize the difference. I guess the question being, how far do you go down? Like, can it become a gray area sometimes where, and I think it does become a gray area where variance and playing bad sometimes, I guess, help each other out. You know what I'm saying? You play bad and then maybe, you know what I'm saying, you chase those losses. Maybe you make poor decisions, then, and then now you're trying to tell yourself, oh, that's just variance, but you're like, maybe I'm playing, it gets to be a gray area sometimes and it gets to be tough. But I typically, you should know, like, that was a bad decision. You know what I'm saying? And I need to look that again or not do that anymore.
I think the failure tornado that you just described is something I've definitely experienced, where I'm in the middle of like punting away chips, and I'm like, no, it's variance, no, and then I look back at the hands later, and I'm like, oh, Sean, you idiot. Adam, tell me your thoughts. How are you checking yourself there for the variance versus that was a bad decision?
Yeah, I think everybody knows. You when it's an egregious, bad decision, I think that everybody knows. I think, like Gerry said, the hard part is the discipline to do something about it.
Yes.
The other thing I'd add is, having the group or someone to talk to, whether you could call them a coach, a colleague, just someone else that understands the game that you can talk hands through, because not every play is going to be egregiously bad to you, right?
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it still was good.
Yeah, I'm going to absolutely agree with this. I posted this comment, Eric, good stuff, man. I totally agree with this. Track all your sessions and review later. And if you guys don't have a place that you're currently doing this, I know these guys, we all talk hands in the Discord. And if you're not in there, that information's in the description. So give it a click and come join us. We talk hands on there. We were just talking through some good ones the other day too, that actually, Adam, you had a couple on there that were good ones to talk about. Tom, let me throw to you really quick on that same topic. How are you checking yourself to say that's variance versus I just made a terrible play?
I always think I play terrible.
You do. You don't give yourself enough credit,
with
dude.
That. I agree.
You're like, yeah, I only made $300 last session. Like, I'm not happy with myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think anything a human being does can probably be improved, right? So if you sit there thinking like I did the best, I mean, I might be able to do the best that I can presently do, but since the frontier of knowledge of poker is way past here, right? I should be striving to try to make future better decisions. So I always assume that, I've screwed up lots of things. And like whether you win or lose one session, like I remember thinking one session in particular, result wise was really good. And I just thought I played so horrible. Like every decision was bad. And the cards bailed me out or I ran some terrible bluff that's like should never work. And then it worked. And afterwards I'm like, this is so horrible. But I think if you sort of lack, I mean, there's going to be some people out there, right, that think every time things go their way, they're a genius. And every time that things don't go their way, they're unlucky. And if you're that kind of person, like, I don't see how you could possibly succeed.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
Phil Hellmuth does pretty well. I mean, I'm just saying he does pretty well. I mean, and I think that's his thought process. So
hey, when he loses, it's someone else's fault, right?
Right.
It's dumb luck. It's someone else's fault.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue with all the bracelets, but yeah, sometimes that guy's mindset is funny. Okay, I want to post this one because I think this is really good. I'm going to throw this up that Ben put out here because it's a good question. Do you guys think you can play bad and get it in with positive EV? I'll take this one. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
I think you definitely can. There's times, I think an example of this would be you get the money in, but you aren't thinking through the hand well. So for example, you could have someone, I see this with new players a lot, where they have, say, aces and they're over attached to the aces, right? I got aces pre-flop. And the person is showing them on a board that does not favor them. Maybe it's like 3 to a suit and 3 to a straight. And they're pounding on this board. And a person with it's all red, and a person with black aces turns up their aces and calls an all in. And maybe it's just a pure bluff, right? The hand that they happen to have called does not have the right amount of equity to beat them often enough in the bluff. However, the bluff was very good, and the spot in general can be very bad for those aces. So you can have played it, I would argue, poorly. Like, hey, maybe not a spot to call off your stack with aces. And yet, hey, I have more EV than my opponent now that we're called and we're all in. Anything to add to that, guys?
I mean, I think you're referring to if someone's bluffing you in a spot that like they're next to never bluffing, you end
That's
up
what I'm saying.
calling.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
So yeah. So essentially, you're calling a bluff in that scenario. I guess in the other scenario, um, would be like, I guess when he's referring to getting it in with positive EV, I guess maybe you mistakenly think that you're running a bluff and you end up being ahead.
Oh,
That
sure.
happens, you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? And you're like,
Yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
whoa, I'm plus EV here.
Right.
This guy just called it off with nothing. Okay.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, I guess there's always those situations. So yeah, I mean, I think you can always, it can always be a possibility where you're playing terribly and get it in, plus
Yeah.
EV
Yeah.
on accident.
Man, I wasn't planning on just like hitting the comments super hard, but these are so good. I'm gonna share one more that Eric just said here because I think this is really good. I think some of us who do not fit the definition of pro and some new pros are afraid of sharing with better players. I'm gonna really quick talk about this. I'm gonna leave it up here for a second while I talk about it. But like I'm currently doing jujitsu, right? It's like it's become my new like addiction. I can't stop doing it. But one of the things that happens in there all the time is I go in and I get demolished by people who have been doing this for years and they're way better. But I sit there and I grind through and and then I ask, hey, what mistakes am I making? Hey, what am I doing poorly? Hey, and if I do that, if I only do that with a guy who is new to the gym as well, I'm going to learn a lot less than if I go in and I'm like, guys will be like, yeah, you're offering this, you're making it really easy when you make this mistake over and over again. So Eric, I would say like, I completely understand. Know that the guys here in this group, and I would say in the Discord in general, no one's there to like tear you apart and be like, you moron. But I think what we will do is just offer you a challenge to maybe what you're doing. I will say this. Let me say this. I have posted hands that I think I have played maybe pretty well and find out I've played them poorly because of questions from these guys where they're like, well, why would you do that? And other times where I think I played it poorly and they're like, well, for these reasons, I think this is a pretty good hand. So I wouldn't be afraid of that criticism. I would say it's easy to have that hold you back from really getting to the next level where you want to be, where you're super profitable. So anyway,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that. It can seem intimidating to talk hands with other people. One, because you don't want to be embarrassed if you think you played it bad or they think you played it bad. But it could also be intimidating because you might play poker with these people regularly and you don't want to quote like tell them your secrets or tell them how you play or give them an edge on you. But if you're open and sharing with them, they're open and sharing with you. And also, you generally have 8 to 9 people at a table. So, even when Sean and I are at the same table, there's still 7 other people that we're playing against. The likelihood that we're in hands together is slim. And we share that same experience and understanding. He knows what I know, and I know what he knows. Yep. So it really doesn't give either of us an edge when we play.
Yeah, and if so Adam and I play together, we share on Discord quite a bit, and we talk a lot of hands. If I offer Adam nothing, he's probably going to offer me nothing, right? But if I'm offering, hey, this is what I know about the game, here's a question I have, here's what I'm thinking about right now, then even if it's not on the level he's at, or even if it's above or below, it doesn't really matter. We're kind of striving to make each other better. Scripture says iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And I think the same thing is true in poker, where if you're actively reviewing a hand with people, you're more likely to improve yourselves versus if we try to hold all our secrets in. Yeah, we're not giving anything away, but we're also not getting anything back from other players. So yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah, do it.
Any viewers, just real quick. And I think this is important because I have no problem discussing hands with anybody, no matter whatever their level is of understanding. What I don't do, and I've had this happen many times, is someone will ask me a question about my play at the table that I'm playing with.
Totally
and I'm like,
different.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer that for you. You know what I'm saying? Or another, don't do that. But I think another big one for me is when players will try to explain a hand to me. Like if you're going to want to get into this hand discussion, please learn how to describe a hand properly to someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to know what your stack was, what your opponent's stack was. You know, I need to know, or at least you need to know exactly, you know, was there 3 bets, you know, just the plethora of information that you can easily find online when someone describes a hand. You know what I'm saying? There's just a lot of missing information. And I find it happened to me the other day. Actually, a dealer was talking about a hand to me, and I ended up asking him like 15 questions before we even got to the turn. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, so I think that's very important, especially to someone, if you're approaching someone who does play the game seriously and takes it very seriously. You know what I'm saying? You need to know your position, your stack size, your opponent's stack size, their position, and what all's taking place. You know what I'm saying? I think that's very important.
Yeah. And Eric's comment is exactly, he just said, I jammed pre with king 10 off. Was that bad? Like, I think often the question is something along the lines of like, it was a bad beat, right? Like you're like, they don't care about the details. They just want you to, at the end, to be like, this hand shouldn't have beat this hand, right?
Right.
Like, to your point, well, what actually happened? How did you get to that point? So,
yeah, exactly.
but I will say also, yes, you need to kind of learn if you want to like get really good feedback. But if you've never done a hand history before, just start by posting some and asking questions and discussing. And the average person's not going to, again, we're not there to tear you apart. It's to help each other. And there's I think the ones I hate posting them, but they're the most beneficial is to go, guys, I know I screwed this up, but let's talk about what I can do next time, because I get the most out of that. Because a lot of times I'll be like, hey, here's what I think I should have done, or here's what I did. And, you know, Tom's really good at like just asking me a question. Why did you do that? Why did I do that? I didn't have to explain this part, but yeah, it's really good to just break those things down. All right. I'm going to move us to the next piece here. So this question was one that Jess, actually, he couldn't be here tonight, but he had this question. I think it's really good to discuss. So how do you know when you're ready to move up in stakes? Let's talk about it let's talk about it kind of in a vacuum as much as we can, but both when you're playing professionally, also just in general. How do you know when it's time? How do you know when you're ready? I'm going to kick it over to you, Gerry. You want to start this one?
Oh, I think it's simple. I think, you know, is your poker fund bankroll moving up enough to sustain, you know, a certain amount of downswing or upswing? And even if you are winning, I guess it's a 3-step thing. Even if you are winning a lot, let's say at a 1-2 stake and you want to go to 2-5, are you going to win? Take shots. I believe in shot taking. You know, like one day jump in the 2-5 game. You know, if it doesn't work, then maybe you're back to the 1-2 game for a long time. But also you have to figure out if you're making 10 big blinds an hour at 1-2, which is $20 an hour, but you're only making 3 big blinds an hour at 2-5, that's 15. You know what I'm saying? Which one do you want to play?
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, moving up stakes is totally an individual thing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think those are probably the 3 most important, simple ways to look at moving. If you're talking about cash games, if you're talking about tournaments, then we're on a different, you know, idea. You can like easily shot take in one tournament that's a higher buy-in that doesn't probably as affect your bankroll as much, you know, but regardless.
Yeah. I think probably the best thing you're saying there with the game selection is, are you actually, the goal is to earn more, right? Hourly. So if you're moving up to a game that's going to crush you, is that really where you want to be? I want to throw to Adam here because I think Adam probably has the most experience. I don't know how much you want to share about yourself, but I call Adam the international man of mystery because he travels a lot. He gets to play a lot of games. He's been in a lot of card rooms. And I think he's pretty good at analyzing a table and going, where am I at in the table? Is this a good game to play at? Is this a stake I want to be at? Adam, tell me some thoughts there. What you've given me a lot personally. What about for the audience?
Yeah, so I think if you're talking about a professional doing it, you know, when do you move up? It's that bankroll management piece, definitely taking shots. What a lot of me and my friends used to do is wait until we saw the people we're used to playing with go play a bigger game. You know, generally those businessmen when they come in on Friday night, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're playing maybe the 2-5 game. because that's what's available, right? And then when you come in on Friday, when there's more of those businessmen that you know how they play, you're used to seeing them play, you see them sitting at the 5-10 because now that game is running. That's a time to take your shot if your bankroll's there, right? Even if you're only doing it once a month. If you're winning at that lower stake, you see the guys you're used to playing with, you think you're better than, you have a little bit of an edge. You can take that shot once or twice. If those shots are positive, then maybe you can move up, full time when that bankroll's ready. But it really is so much about separating the bankroll, making sure that you have the money to take the shot, and it's not going to hurt you if you do. And that game selection, knowing who's in there, watching the table, seeing how they interact with each other. One of the things, you talk about traveling a lot and playing in a lot of different card rooms. I generally try to play the bigger games in a room. But whenever I walk up to scope out that table and I don't see a single alcoholic drink around the table at all, I generally go pick the game that's a little bit smaller. I go to the biggest game where somebody has a drink, and that's the game that I'll play.
Let's talk about this real quick. Okay, I want to talk about this more, and then I want to get to the tip you gave me probably a couple years ago that I think has been really helpful. But let's talk about this with game selection. What else are you looking for? So a drink, I agree with you. If you see drinks, that's good. What else are you looking for at that table?
Yeah, people talking. You want people talking. You want people having a good time. That generally means not a lot of hoodies and headphones.
Right.
I generally wear a hoodie or some kind of zip up just because I get cold in the card room. But you won't see it over my head. You won't see headphones. Anything like that. You don't see glasses as much these days. But if you walk up to a table, maybe today, if you walk up to a table with 8 other people wearing glasses, you're in a good spot. But
are they all Ray-Bans? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely good. Gerry, what's something you're looking for when you're walking for game selection?
Well, recently I've been focusing mostly all this year on tournaments. But even when I would look for game selection, now, I mean, I'm not saying everyone's going to know this, but I'm semi well versed in the, I guess I just know clothing. So like you can tell, or shoes, you know what I'm saying? Like if a guy has on some like Gucci slippers, like I'm saying he's probably an action player, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or like, a lot of businessmen, or, what I'm saying, flashy dressers, and typically younger, middleweight. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to look at a table with, a bunch of guys, 65 plus. That's maybe if they're all businessmen and they all know each other, but most of the time, you know what I'm saying, the younger crowd's going to be more active, more aggressive, more loose, more action.
So you're excited to see Gucci slippers. If you're like, those are Walmart slippers, like the fuzzy animal ones, what are you thinking?
No, I mean, no, I use that as an example, but expensive clothing, Balenciaga t-shirts and all that stuff. A lot of them guys have a lot of money. And I think overall demeanor of the people sitting at the table, like he said, like, hoodies, the guy that's taking the game seriously, he just looks different sitting there.
He does.
A bunch of relaxed players with nice shirts on and, Rolex watches, pretty obvious, you know what I'm saying? Like what's going on there? Like they don't really care about the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 that's sitting in front of them. Maybe there's 40,000 on the table, but they make 400,000. They don't care about a few $1,000.
Right. Tom, I haven't thrown your way in a while. Any thoughts on this, on game selection?
I will say about the watches, at least in our card room, the better the watch, the worse the player, almost always. Like if they got a really, really nice watch, they're just like, they don't care about the money.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say something that I often like that I will go like, oh, I feel pretty comfy is when I see guys with like golf shirts on. Like there's a lot of guys who, especially like when you're in Vegas, that just got off the golf course. and they're ready to have a drink and play some cards and hang out and relax. Like golf shirt, talking, drink in the hand. I'm like, ooh, get me to that table. I want a piece of that. And I've been to, I'm not saying there's a lot of guys who play poker who are amazing golfers. And so you got to pay attention. It's not just anyone with a golf shirt, but like a casual person on vacation with that golf shirt on. I want to sit at that table. I've sat at some really good ones with guys of that yoke or whatever. So
also
Adam,
maybe something that Adam said before about not having headphones and like if we talk to people, not about poker, but like you can just ask people like, what do you do for a living? Right. A completely normal question. And if they tell you, oh, I'm whatever, and depending on the type of job, like you might get some kind of insight into how, whether or not this money means anything to them. If I own a chain of car dealerships and you've heard of my car dealerships and I probably make millions of dollars a year, you're probably like, okay, this guy's not going to care about the money at all.
Right.
Just here to have some beers and have some fun.
Yep. I sat next to a comedian one time, and that money just like poured onto the table, and then it poured onto the table again, and then again, and then again, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yep. So, okay, Adam, I want to throw to you really quick. Actually, before we do, what is like the best answer to that question that you're like, yes, we're in the money, like. And what is the worst thing they can say when you ask, what do you do for a job? Like, what is the answer you do not want to hear, Tom? Other than professional poker players, which they're never going to tell you that. I've had guys who are professional poker players be like, I blow glass for a living, and and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I know what you're doing. But what is the worst answer that is not professional poker player?
Wait, who are you asking?
Tom, I'm asking you. Yeah.
Oh.
What do you think?
I would think somebody I don't know, maybe somebody in finance.
Really? Okay.
Well, because it would understand risk and be able to do mathematical calculations.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying that's the worst?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that was the worst.
Yeah, the
worst. Geez, Tom. Okay.
Adam, you look like you got an answer. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. Anything that's heavily math related. Yeah. Finance, economics, they understand probabilities, they understand math. They're going to be better poker players than the construction worker for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Jerry,
I agree with exactly what they're saying, but to add on, typically engineers are no good, are not people you want to hear. They tend to be tighter, and depending on the kind, depending on the kind, lawyers sometimes are bad, but I mean, like sometimes they can be good but sometimes they can be the guy that is used to doing nothing all day, and he's only playing the nuts. So
we just lost all our lawyers out of the. Please come back.
Charge someone $450 an hour and don't do anything. I mean, that's pretty much what they're used to. It depends on the kind of lawyer they are, I think. But
comment the comments say an actuary, statistician, affluent. Definitely not the guy you want.
No.
All right, what is the best answer?
Tom going first or me?
Go ahead, Jerry, if you got one.
No, I don't. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Oh, I do know. Yeah.
Okay. Best
I would say consultant or like business owner, like someone who's because consultants make, I don't know where you guys are at, but down here they make millions of dollars.
Okay.
They're the guys in there with the $40,000 watches and the $50,000 watches, and they just don't care.
Yeah.
So consultants or like a business owner, restaurant owners.
Okay.
Those tend to be gamblers.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs.
Adam? I played in LA a lot, so actors are good. But I think for most people's normal card rooms, construction worker, I think generally, they seem to be people that work a lot by themselves, so they don't get the social interaction at work. And so that can be a social interaction for them. So to me, it has nothing to do with their intelligence. It's just they don't get to interact with people a lot. They're doing a lot of heavy physical things a lot. And this is a chance for them to relax from all of that, socialize, not be physical, and have a beer. And so they tend to be really good action, a lot of fun at the table.
Yeah. And probably like I would say on average, especially when they're younger, their income versus their bills, there's a pretty good gap. And so it's pretty expendable, right? Yeah. So yeah, good answer. Tom, best answer?
I kind of liked actor a lot, actually. That was kind of my first instinct too. Or maybe some kind of artisty type person, you know. But like I don't know if you guys ever saw the one with Matt Damon playing at the World Series. He was playing some hand. His acting was terrible, just awful.
I haven't seen that.
It was yeah, you should check it out. But it was really bad. It was like one of these like weak but when strong kind of things.
Huh.
And it was like grade 2 level acting. You know,
did he do the pause, heavy sigh, and then put the chips in?
That kind of thing. It was just terrible. Like, how is this guy? But you know, like, of course he's an actor, but he's not a. But in real life, without someone to direct him, I guess maybe not so good at it.
Doesn't know how to act. I would say best answer in my opinion. I mean, this is kind of giving away a spot, but I like going down to Arizona around spring training when they have like all the athletes, they're getting their checks,
for sure,
and they're showing up to the table. They just got paid, and they are ready to they're like, I'm ready to take a day off. I've been working hard, and they will pump some money into the table for sure. That is one of my favorite answers. That's one where, like, when I get down there and that like lines up just right, oh man, those games are juicy. All right, let's go with players with Oreos
slippers
at the table.
Do you see the comment above that? House slippers. House slippers are talk about doing nothing and getting paid.
And that one's pretty good too. Players with Oreos at the table.
Right.
Pay this man his money. All right. Well, we are getting close, so I'm not going to go too much longer here. But before, Adam, I know your time's a little tight. I want to get back to this thought you shared with me probably 2 years ago or something. Hey, this is how I approached taking a shot when I was ready to take a shot. Talk about that and give me your formula or how you approach that, because I think it's really good.
Yeah. So I would do it not considering that that poker or a bankroll is a never-ending thing, but a weekend or a day or a experience. And so what I would do is I would drive actually from Arizona to Vegas every other week, 8 hours, and I was bankrolled to play the 2-5. That was the lowest game at the Bellagio at the time. And so I would sit down and I'd play 2-5. And if I won $1,000, whether it was that day or that day and the next day, when I profited $1,000, I would put my original $500 back in my pocket and I'd go play 5-10. And it introduced a way for me to break even on the weekend and keep my bankroll intact while also kind of take a shot. And from that point, when I would win $2,000, I would take a little bit of that money and put it in my pocket, and then I would go to 10-20. And so there were days I would show up on Friday night playing 2-5, and by Saturday morning, I was, leaving a 10-20 table. And it gets you used to taking the shots, to the different kinds of people, while also in some ways kind of protecting your bankroll, your initial investment. And, it took a couple times of not having that discipline where I would show up and be like, well, I played 5-10 last time, so I'm just going to play 5-10 this time. And you dust off $1,500 real quick. And you're like, man, I'm not really bankrolled to do this every time. So you have to start with what you're bankrolled at. And that was, 2-5, $500 buy-in. And that allowed me to incrementally move up until I had enough positive sessions that my bankroll could sustain 5-10 full time.
Right.
And eventually 10-20 full time. So, but it was a good way to kind of step up and understand the new games, take shots, protect my investment, that kind of thing. I also had a job at the time. So I was bankrolled for 2-5. but I could break even, right? If I lost that 500 or 1,000 playing 2-5 that weekend, I could go home and it'd be fine. So I don't know if that's something I would do if I was a professional starting out today, but having a job, getting your feet wet, trying to learn these games, I think it's a good way to take a shot.
And I what I want to say about that is, when I ended up trying this, I just wasn't playing a lot of 5-10. That's not something I had really. I don't have access to that locally, and so I hadn't really played it while I was down there, just because I know so many of the people that are like, I'd look at those games and be like, okay, that's 5-10, but to your point, everyone's in a hoodie, everybody has headphones on, whatever. I don't want to jump into a game full of people who are better than me at a stake I'm not really bankrolled for. And so I wouldn't really take a shot. And then Adam was like, here's how to do it. I ended up doing that and then realized I found a good game, sat down, got comfortable, and then went, okay, really, the stakes are up, but the players aren't. I've got one or two guys I need to be aware of. The rest of the table is a 2-5 table. Really, it's just a higher stake. So I think that was really helpful. Really good way to kind of dip your toe in the water and get to that next level. So we've only got a little bit of time left. Adam, I know you got to leave here soon. Are you doing okay? How are we doing on time?
Yeah, I got 4 minutes and I gotta go put the kid to bed.
Okay, 4 minutes, because Adam is a good dad. All right, so I'm gonna run this game here at before you get out of here, and then we're gonna catch up with Gerry a little bit, maybe answer an audience question or two, and then we're gonna be on our way. So, all right, so the game is, here's what I want you to do. If you want to buzz in, if you know the answer, you're gonna buzz in by saying your name. So I since I don't have actual buzzers for you, just say your name when you think you know the answer. I'm going to start describing a poker player. You're going to tell me who that poker player is. As soon as you know, just say your own name. Okay, ready?
Okay.
This poker player has 11 WSOP bracelets. He is still playing. He is incredible at reading body language. He has a masterclass series.
Gerry.
Yep, Gerry, what you got?
Phil Ivey.
Yes, sir. Ding, ding, ding. Point to Gerry. Well done. Well done. All right. The first two, I'm going to say a little on the easier side. We'll get a little harder as we go. All right. Option number 2. This farmer poker player passed away last year. He went by the name Texas Dolly. He was a 2-time WS. All right, Tom.
Doyle Brunson.
Yeah.
I got one.
Easiest one on there.
That'll be the only one I'm going to get.
All right, so we got 1-1. And all right, next one. Here we go. Has 3 WSOP bracelets. In 2012, he won what was the largest single tournament payout of over $18 million. His nickname is Tom.
Esfandiari. I forget.
Yes, Tom.
Antonio.
Antonio Esfandiari. All right, it's three points. We'll get the sweep here. So if you got 3 points, you're gonna win. All right, the next player is. Hold on, my notes are. Why are they not scrolling? 1 second here. What's going on? There we go. All right. The next player in this list is the most famous Finnish professional poker player, a former tennis player and a coach.
Gus Hansen.
Hold on.
Oh.
What'd you say?
Gus Hansen.
It is not
Tom.
Gus Hansen. Yep.
Patrick Antonius.
Yes, Patrick Antonius. Yep. Very nice.
They look the same.
Yeah, they're both bald.
It
counts. Half a point to Adam for both bald. All right. Last one for you guys. This poker player came up playing gin rummy, and after becoming known as the best to ever play the game.
Tom. Stu Unger.
Yes. Jeez, Tom, man. Poker trivia.
Thanks.
I didn't realize we had a ringer here. Wow, well done.
Well, you picked the ones from like the olden days, right?
Yeah, I tried to give guys that weren't kind of had some history to them. So Eric says they're the same guy, Gus Hansen and Patrick. It might be. All right. Well, Adam, thanks. I know you got to go. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate all your thoughts, and thanks for coming on, even though you go be a good dad, and we'll talk to you another time.
Thank you. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Nice meeting you.
Bye.
All right, Gerry, we got a few minutes here. I want to catch up with you. So,
Yeah.
Gerry,
I really wanted to answer this question. I thought you were going to keep going with the questions.
What you got?
So, well, no, I'm saying because I had some fiery answers for.
Fire away, man. Fire away.
Just I want to hear the Daniel Negreanu's advice to survive off of poker. I want to hear what that was.
So his advice was when you're living off of when you have $72,000 budgeted for the year to pay your bills and you're making 65,000, he's like, a lot of guys, rather than make the lifestyle adjustment, will just keep grinding and trying to figure out why they can't make it as a pro, rather than go, okay, I'm going to move to a small studio apartment that costs less, and I'm going to eat cheap food, and I'm going to like whatever you need to do to lower your bills to make it possible to now live at 65,000, rather than going, oh, poker doesn't work. Just recognize, hey, you might have to like change your standard of living to make poker work. And he said that's probably the biggest mistake, most common mistake people make is, this is my standard of living. Can I play cards? Versus, okay, can I play cards? What standard of living can I afford while playing? So
yeah, I think that's a super rich response coming from him.
Well,
and I say that because I'm pretty sure I've watched many stories where like when he was younger being a pro, before, let's just call it sub all of his millions and millions of dollars in sponsorships. Okay. Sub that. His mom was packing him, Phil Ivey, and whoever else lunch to take to, you know what I'm saying? Like he was living at home with mom. You know what I'm saying? He never had to make that prior to, you know what I'm saying, getting the sponsorships. I don't think he had to make those sacrifices. That's why I say it's slightly rich coming from him, considering I definitely don't believe anymore that you can sustain a decent life from low stakes poker.
Do you do not believe that is possible?
No, 2.5 and sub, absolutely not. Maybe 5-10, but if you take like the most relevant example, I think that I would have would be Brad Owen. I think like his goal, like maybe like his third year into vlogging, was to make 50,000 from 5-10.
Sure,
that's not a lot of money.
No.
I mean, when you think about at the end of the year, if you actually pay taxes on the 50,000, and then you talk about, you know, healthcare and whatever else, not to mention after immersing myself back in the industry and reconnecting with other people that I know, I have not yet to meet any pro that doesn't have another form of income to, you know what I'm saying, live off of. Like whether they're an online pro that have real estate properties, you know what I'm saying, whether they're a live pro who has, you know, business, they have some small businesses that's making income, or anything like, or any of these new guys coming up that are claiming to be pros, but you know what I'm saying, all they're really doing is starting YouTube channels.
Right. Their YouTube's paying their bills, not their poker.
Or they're living at home with mom, or they're built.
Sure.
They're born with a silver spoon, anyways. You know what I'm saying? Anything like that, like 18 years old and you're a poker pro. Like, dude, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me a break. Like, cut me some slack here. But like at this point,
but if you were going to do it, wouldn't that be the time to do it? Because you can live at home with mom, or you can live in a cheap apartment, or you can slum it at 18. You can't slum it like in your scenario, trying to like provide well for a family. I think that's incredibly difficult to do. I'm not saying you can't. Incredibly difficult to do. But if you're 18 and you're like, I'll eat peanut butter and jelly every day, and I'll like live in a crappy apartment because I don't care, and you know, whatever. Like, I think it's possible. You're just accepting this is my standard of living in order to play poker, right?
I have yet to meet an 18-year-old that could really do the things that would be necessarily possible or maturely to separate their bankroll from their funds. Like, what do you think an 18-year-old who, let's just say there's some 18-year-old out there that can play in Texas, because, you know, legal gambling's 21, but you can play poker in Texas at 18 at the clubs. Let's just say there's an 18-year-old kid out there that decided him and 3 of his buddies got a house. You know what I'm saying? It would then depend upon what they're going to play. Like, if they're going to play live cash, you think if he had a good night at $4,000 that he's going to go, okay, I'm 18. You know what I'm saying? No parties,
I see what you're
no
saying.
spending any extra money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, nothing like that, guys. You know, I'm going to put 3,500 away in my bankroll, and then that way in 6 months I can move up stakes. That's not happening. So like,
I think it can. Like, Tom, how old were you when you were doing the chess thing?
Chess is
20.
different.
20. Like, yeah,
But
I'm
chess,
I live with a bunch of roommates, and
yes.
yeah.
And I agree. But I'm saying chess, when you play chess, you are much more disciplined than you are with poker.
Sure, but the personality is the same, right? Like if Tom had chosen poker, your disciplined personality, I think, would translate. I've met guys that pay their bills. I don't think they live extremely well, but I think they're living. And your point is made though. In general, if you're doing it, you're scrapping, right? Like you're
Yeah, you're
grinding.
living under a
If
bridge.
you're,
I'm saying, show me.
yeah.
I want to meet
Yeah.
the guy. I want to meet the guy that's
Right.
playing 1-3 right now and making a living off of
Right.
1-3.
And he's
And
wearing those slippers. Yeah.
if it is 1-3, then it's not really 1-3. Like, let's say where I play at, 1-3 is not really 1-3.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you go to most Midwestern casinos, 1-3, I don't know, Tom, what's the max cap buy-in for 1-2 game? 1-3 game.
1-2 here, $500.
Now it is, but 15 years ago, 10 years ago,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to rent a board. He's right.
So
exactly.
good.
That's
So
exactly
good, man.
100% true. But I mean, 10 years ago, 100 big blinds was max cap.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It wasn't until this new age live stream thing came on where now 1-3 cap is $1,000 just to start the game, but then it's matched the stack. We're talking about 300, 400, 500 big blinds.
Yeah.
That's not even like 10 years ago to think about a 300 or 400 or 500 big blind stack. That was a massive stack. Now you just buy in with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and playing that deep is not even the same realm of game that most people learn about. But I'm getting off the topic. But regardless, I would like to meet the person playing 1-3 or 2-5 that is making a good living without any secondary income, zero secondary income.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good stuff. It's well taken. We're getting close to that hour mark. I want to be good with your guys' time here.
I'm fine with my time.
But Gerry,
I don't know about Tom.
Jerry, tell me, like, you got to fill the people in, man. You're back on YouTube. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. Like, so glad you're back, but tell us where you're at. What are you up to?
Mostly, I'm trying to get some live cash content for the viewers. I did have some in my last one, but I'm mostly grinding tournaments and mostly online. I have been doing a lot of live streams, but the vlogs are going to be, once every 2 weeks. They're not going to be weekly. I just don't have the time. I tried to say a few of these things in my opening video. It's just, I mean, just to think about the idea, as well. I mean, how long have you been doing? We started about the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
January-ish of 21, 22?
I don't even remember now.
22, I think it was.
I'm 2.5 years, almost 3 years into this. So yeah, it would have been 21. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 years. I couldn't even imagine, even if I was 24 with no family and I was playing, 2 or 3 days a week, the other 2 or 3 days a week would have to be absolute editing if I wanted to put out a full-length vlog every week.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2.5 years, that's 56 or 50, what is it, 52 weeks in a year? Yeah. So, I mean, 130 weeks. There's no way I'm not even close to 130 vlogs. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you are either. Like, the amount of work that goes into it is it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I've learned in the industry, most of these guys now have, even some of these guys that are just starting, they all have editors.
Right.
Where they have the money, I'm saying they have the money to pay for editors, so, like, just starting out, so I can't do that. I have gotten some assistance with an editor, but, and I think probably mostly going to be with the shorts. And I'll probably put most of the long form together. Just because I think a lot of my vlogging experience is going to change versus trying to do full length cash game vlogs.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just, it's just a lot of work. And then, sometimes you go and play for, so many hours and you're like, no one wants to watch this. Like, I feel like it's a waste of a time for me to put out
bummer session. Yeah.
Or you don't, it's not even a bummer session. Like, let's just say you don't have any big hands.
Right.
Maybe that day, I grinded 3.5 hours and made $50 and the biggest pot I seen all day was $75. Like, no one wants to watch that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I don't mind relaying it and saying, hey, this happened this day. And X amount of, but no one wants to watch that either. So,
Right.
but mostly I've just been grinding tournaments. That's where most of my study comes from. That's where most of my learning comes from. That's where now recently, my coaching has come from.
You working with a coach right now?
Yes, on and off. I mean, coaches are expensive, so
Yeah.
yes, but I am working with a coach right now. So
Cool.
I've had a lot of success. Probably my most successful year playing tournaments, mostly online because variance. You can't get in enough tournaments in live play to outweigh the variance.
Sure.
I mean, Daniel Negreanu is a prime example. He's a loser over millions of dollars over the last 3 or 4 World Series.
Yeah.
He won $1.2 million and still lost this year.
Right.
At the World Series.
Right.
Because you can only play so many tournaments a day. But online, I could play 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 tournaments a day if I wanted to.
Sure.
And that's when you can really kind of, even out that variance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to put that together for people and trying to do weekly things, maybe little snapshots of Monday, I'm grinding. If I don't make any final tables or anything like that, I won't show, or I'm trying to do a little questionnaire where I study, where I'm studying a hand and put that out, or Saturdays are family days, I'll do a little montage of, out with the family, but
yeah. Really quick, before we wrap though, tell people about you were gone, but I mean, you had some life changes, man. You had a son, and
yes, I had a son, and I've been battling, trying to figure out what's wrong with me physically. I ended up finding out that, long story short, I do have 3 hernias. One of them is a hiatal hernia, and I have some GERD. Well, I have GERD, so that's caused some dietary changes. I had some issues with my bladder. That was an easy fix, but with the dietary changes, no alcohol, no caffeine, stuff like that to prevent the GERD, I'm on medication. So yeah, I went through a lot, and I just had to come to the decision that I just didn't have the time to juggle everything.
Yeah.
And it's even hard now, but yeah, my son was born, and that's great. He's hilarious and super polar opposite of his sister, who's just a crazy person, and he's just looks around I don't know what this world is for. He doesn't talk. I mean, he talks, but he just chills, so that's helpful. I just sit him in the room while I edit or something. But so I've went through a lot over the past year, but I'm back into it. The only other thing is, I'm starting to play on Club GG, hooked up with Poker Llama, and so I've been doing a lot of live streaming to play on there, but I hopefully that relationship works out well. Shout out to Poker Llama, great dude. So I have some things in the works, trying to come back and really, give it a go 100%.
Cool. Well, we're gonna wrap so that we're here in an hour. But I tell people where they can find you, because you changed your channel name. It's not just Gerry Harris Poker anymore.
Right. Well, it's GH Poker, but I wanted to keep the GH. You know what I'm saying? All my social medias are GH Poker, so I just went to Good Hand Poker, and I kind of thought, why not? I would have loved to change it to Double Dad Poker or something, or I don't know, the Neon Fluff.
Double Dad.
Yeah, because I have 2 kids. Double Dad.
He's the Double Dad. Okay.
Right. So I wanted to, but then I thought, man, that's just a big change. It's a massive change. I have to change my social medias or recreate new ones, and it's just so I'll just kind of keep the GH thing, Good Hand, you know what I'm saying, and see where that goes, and try to keep away from the GG Poker, because you couldn't find GH Poker; it would just populate GG Poker. So
yeah,
I am Good Hand Poker now, aka Gerry Harris, aka GH Poker. We're all the same.
And if you search GH, I don't know, you might still get the GG stuff, but I just, if it's Gerry Harris Poker, Good Hands Poker, you'll find him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back, man. Glad to have you on YouTube again. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Having me tonight.
And guys, thanks for being here. Love all the comments. This was a blast.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next time.
Alrighty.
Good night,
Tom.